we were recently talking about the new Netflix series Boots, and the story is a teenager graduates high school and he enters boot camp. He's gay, and he is living life in the 90s when it was illegal to be gay in the military. And so it's a whole swarm of things: homophobia, not being accepted, hypermasculinity. And, one thing that I had been thinking about very recently, and I talked to Coco about it, is that we're in life, there's so many labels given to us. And it's like label to label to label, and we're literally constantly labeling ourselves. And I think that's okay to a point. When we're born, we're immediately labeled with you're a boy, you're a girl. That's your label. We're labeled as a baby, the rest is chaos. What goes on from that point is a mess because there's a label that you're given that you're supposed to live in. And when that label doesn't fit, or when you don't want to be in that label and it doesn't represent you, it's very chaotic and messy. And I wanted to touch base about that.
Yes. Well, we talked about earlier about cycle breakers, and it sounds like this um, young man in the military was a cycle breaker, sharing the story, talking about what happened. And I think what stories like that really help people understand is, yeah, the 90s, that wasn't that long ago. I was a kid growing up in San Francisco in the 80s. We forget the AIDS epidemic. We forget that uh, it wasn't that long ago that there was significant discrimination, significant harm done to the LGBT if you didn't fit the identity or the narrative. Mm. And as a society, we can either um, revolve around the same pain and harm and hurt and label, right? The labels um, harmless. I always, what do they say in therapy? We say labeling is disabling. Mm. Yes. And say, can we look at each other for who we are? Again, we talk about this fullness. And when you're in the military, so you have systems, whether it's military, political systems or religious systems, right? The younger generation is breaking through that. So it started in there's pioneers, these cycle breakers all throughout history and they were the lone people. It's very lonely when you're a cycle breaker in a system that's intent on keeping you small. Mm. And you may be alone, and you may be alone for a long time. But I can guarantee you there are people watching and people seeking, and you're empowering people to break those cycles. So here we are today, moving backwards, thinking we were progressing quite nicely, I thought, moving along. Maybe I shouldn't get too, we were moving along, and now we're seeing the cycles are being broken and brought up more fear. Now the old systems are trying to keep like this. Anyway, I don't want, there's Supreme Court things happening and all this stuff that's happening. And we're thinking, oh, we can't lean into the fear. Oh, they're going to change laws. They're going to change this. Say, no, see it as a gift. They're afraid because we're moving into a new place of acceptance and love and honoring. And so, of course, the old systems are going to want to stay stuck. But it's in our love that we can overcome that, not in the fear of being afraid that they're going to do something. We can't. Love always conquers fear. So foods. I'm really excited to watch the Netflix. Thank you for sharing that with me because um, you have a young man joining the military, wanting to, I don't know what the reasons were, but, wanting to serve his country. And yet everything he had gone through, all the pain, and for what? At the end of the day, were they not all serving their country? Mm.
Right.
If you have a family member are they not still your sister or your brother or your cousin or your aunt or your uncle? And yet we lose sight of that because of fear. We fear what we don't know.
That's the crazy part, right? It's like, I totally feel that. Miles Heiser is the lead actor in the show. I'm excited for you to watch. So I want to chat a little bit more with you a little bit later. Um, but it's so true. It's like just the acceptance of being, right? And no matter what that is, you're there for a purpose. Like, you're there to serve your country. You're showing up to do your job.
That's right.
And that's all it really should be.
Mm.
But the feeling of moving backwards, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild, right? But what are the gifts in that we really do get to share that with our son? That it sparks another conversation when we're watching this show with him. Like, he's like, is that real? Is this true? And it's like, I talk to Coco all the time about Matthew having two gay dads, and we're different ages, different generations, and we both had our struggles. And I can talk to my son about that, and so can Coco, and I think he gets it. He's obviously he's very intelligent. Um, but it's interesting to see a production, on TV that explains it in a different way. That's he's seeing people that are more his age, and there's a little bit, I think, of truth being sparked in him of like, damn, like, okay, this is real. There's aspects of reality here because he may be experiencing some of those, whether it's discrimination for having us as his dads, right? Whether it's confronting someone a little bit different in his school and seeing how they're treated, and so like the value, it's like kind of balancing like the value and the setback all in the same line. It's fascinating.
So it's just so true. It's watching this with him and the questions that he asks, it really it's a bit shocking because he asks questions and you forget sometimes that like this little human hasn't really seen all of the things that the world has been, is now, all of that. And you hear these questions, and it's almost beautiful to be able to answer them in the way that we can answer them. Because I think a little man being raised by two men that are gay is a very different uh upbringing, you know? I think it's very, especially with us specifically, I think that the way we raise them is very, like, very open with a lot of things. And, to the point where, I feel like every time we have therapy, it's like, there's we're just inching forward with like, we're all learning something. We're all just the questions that he asked, we're all just like learning just a little bit more, and we're just a little bit more prepared for the next day. And I think that it's, like our therapist says, I may have said this to you before, but she was like, you have to remember, like now our family is only 7 years old. And like we both, all three of us had lives before we were together. And to really go through all of our lives together and to like help each other to like show up differently for ourselves every day and through questions and tears and emotion and growth is just like it makes me happy. And to bring it back to the show, our boots, it I was so happy when he wanted to watch it because there are some visual parts that are very like I don't know, like there's lots of like kind of like sexual-ish vibes happening. Where obviously he's one of those kids like he doesn't want to watch those parts, but the fact that he wants to like watch this story that's about like queer men in this very hetero space is really like it makes me really happy because it's whatever he's gonna be in his life for him to it just is like this little like show of like support and like love to like want to see what they are going through. Even though it's totally different than what I went through, there's parts of it that are the same or can be compared, you know?
This is so awesome because what you guys are talking about is doing the work, right? You're showing Matthew, he's curious. So if curious, you're watching this show together as a family, you're going to therapy and, this is what doing the work is staying present and listening, what you're sharing about Matthew is perhaps through the Netflix show, him seeking more understanding about, I know it's different, but seeking some understanding of what's it like to be, a gay man, not just in the military, but just in general. And I think that children, because they forget, I mean, they really don't know. There's no, as a brief example, Santi was watching a Britney Spears music video and she said, Mommy, nobody has phones. There's not one phone in the audience. And for her, there was such a disconnect. And for Matthew, perhaps because of the safe environment you guys have created for him, we live where we live, that the exposure of what gay men outside of what you've, like there would be a disconnect for him to see the discrimination. Is that, is that
Right.
I'm not saying he doesn't see it,
No, I think you nailed it on the head.
but
Yeah.
and so
And that's how you worded that, and it's, just kind of explain that. It's true. I mean, it's in many ways, and we can only be here for our kids, right? To get through these tough times that we are in today. And there's so much always coming at us. I love that we get to be here together to share these experiences. You give us so much to take with. I know that the audience really loves you here. And
No, they do. The numbers show.
and
oh, well, I love being here.
I'm gonna show.
Oh, well, that's,
Yeah.
I just love the energy of being able to I appreciate the two of you because I can be in the fullness of who I am to share my thoughts and my experiences. And I feel so seen here too, to be able to have the freedom to be able to say some of these things where to other circles would be quite hostile, some of the things so, or some of the thoughts or reflections. So this is where synergy and coming together. I mean,
You give me so many mic dropping moments. I feel like
Like we could like spend a whole hour just doing takes on like one-liners.
Tiffany, thank you for being here today, for being in our lives.
You know,
It's fun to do too many things
Yes.
with you
period.
Yeah.
and you.
Man, that's for you. So let's be
Too many things
Too many things.
too many things together.
together.
Period. Don't you move. I'm gonna take a picture of you.
It's fun.
So good. So